So we've just been bumbling around past the Amara River because Manu, who's had his eyes in the skies many times, has said he sometimes sees lionesses along this section of the Amara River, so we thought we'd come and investigate. We have not found it. Instead, look what we found a lot of, which is not good. I don't like to see this. Is this prickly plant that looks like a cactus, but it is not a cactus. It is the prickly pear, a highly invasive species to Africa, and this was introduced by the Europeans when they first started colonizing Africa. It is a nasty plant. I have fallen many a times into prickly pears, and I have to share a very funny story with you. Now, in the Eastern Cape, unfortunately, the area is filled with it, but there are efforts to try and remove it, but it grows like a weed. So if you break one of those leaves and you drop it on the ground, roots will spread. So even when elephants come through and munch on it, and they love to munch on it because it's quite high in a moisture content, and they seem to find it delicious, and the fruits are delicious too. So basically, wherever one drops, sometimes it's dropped in compost, courtesy of the elephants, and it just spreads like wildfire. But the funny story I want to tell you is it makes for a great hedge, and that's one of the reasons that they use this tree. They started dividing land. They didn't necessarily have wire and fencing to go about and start demarcating their areas, so they would grow prickly pear in a hedge. It grows really quickly, and it can grow nice in a straight line. So it would make a really good spot to use the luxury facilities behind. You'd think that no one would be able to see you, which is 100% true. Except when you warn your guests and you say, be very careful, watch where you squat, if you will, make sure you don't take a wrong step. And that's exactly what happened one day. A lovely lady went to use the luxury facilities, and I said, just be very careful. There's lots of prickly pears and thorns around here. You don't want to get, you don't want to stand in one of those. And well, anyway, she ended up going tumbling backwards into a prickly pear bush. And it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever had to do for a guest, was remove thorns from the rear end. There you go. One of my I was very uncomfortable about the whole situation. Never mind the poor guest who had now embarrassingly fallen into the prickly pear. So that was quite funny. I saw a gymnogene flying here. An African harrier hawk. Let's see if I can pick it up again. It's moving around the rocks. Where have you gone? Can't see it anymore. It was just sort of flying around here, and well, barely flying, sort of jumping. So I don't know if it was maybe chasing a lizard of some sort, something like that, but it's gone now. Where'd you go? Because it would have been a nice one to see. I know we all love gymnogenes so much. I wonder how that nest is doing on Chitwa as well. If that couple ever laid an egg or two. No. Okay, well, it doesn't seem like it's hanging around. Okay, so we'll just keep going. So no luck with the lions today. We've definitely had a lot of luck with hippos. There's been hippos everywhere. Every corner I go around, a hippo is standing there, either dead staring me or grazing. Normally one or the two. I don't think I've been up this section of the river before. So we'll see where it leads us. And it's very important that when you are driving along a stretch like this, and we know that the leopards are slightly more on the shy side here, is to check along the banks of the river, because there are these sort of dense shrubs, and there could be a leopard laying underneath them. Very cool though. But we're going to keep exploring this area. Maybe our luck will change, and a lion or a leopard or a cheetah or something will pop out. Tristan, however, seems to be frolicking about with the elephants this morning.
I am indeed, Taylor. We're just on the southern boundary, and the Ellies are inside Little Gowrie, so they're not that great in terms of a visual. They're busy feeding their way along in the grey thickets. That is the southern boundary. It's all monkey orange thickets that they're in at the moment, and they like actually feeding in here at this time of the year. It's still quite dry, and so you'll find that they push up these monkey oranges from time to time, and they'll go after the roots, and in between the monkey oranges a lot of bush willow. And bush willow is a plant that elephants do enjoy immensely. So you'll find that they like the cambium layer on bush willows. For some reason, the bush willow must just have a much tastier cambium layer than many other plants, because they go after them regularly, and you'll find them going through these thickets, pushing over branches. You can see that one there is busy feeding off a broken branch of a bush willow. It's decided, nope, don't want that one though this morning, and off it's going. It seems like quite a nice size herd. I obviously can't see too much because of how dense it is, and that there's really just kind of grey backs that I can see in the distance, but I can hear quite a lot of breaking further back, and so it seems like a solid size herd, maybe at least 15-20 individuals, which is quite nice. And that is a beautiful female. Look at the size of her tusks, nice and long, very, very pretty. I love spending time with the ellies, and it's been nice to see that they're coming back. And I wonder if this bit of rain is going to be a situation where the ellies are going to be a little bit more prominent in the area. It's going to cause a lot of growth of plants, and so hopefully we will see some ellies coming back, and we'll get a lot more in the way of our elephant herds. They've been a little on the scarce side the last month. We've found herds here and there, but very intermittent. It's not like the month before where we were having ellies almost every day. It's a little bit different this month. It seems as though most of them were down on the Sand and Sabi rivers. I was speaking to some of the guys that I know down there, and they were saying lots of elephants packed up on the rivers at the moment. Christy, you're asking if the ellies enjoy the rain. Well, I think on a hot day they do. It just, it soaks them, they get a little bit cooler, and they, at the end of the day, are not being punished by the sun. Being big animals like this, they do overheat quite quickly. There goes a tree by the looks of things. No, not yet. No. No, that bush willow is still pliable enough not to have cracked. She was hoping that it was going to push up more, and you'll find this a lot after rain when there's wet soil, that she's going to try and push and expose those roots, because the soil gives way. It's after the winter, it's been baked, it's hard, the roots hold in the soil. But when you get a situation like this, when it's rained a bit, then the soil will actually shift and the roots will pop up. But getting back to the ellies in the rain, so they do overheat quite quickly. That's why they have big ears that are able to cool them down. So the rain is nice in that regard, that it's cooler. They are able to move around without having to worry about the sun, and they can spend their time feeding in sections that otherwise would be quite tough for them to feed in. They'd have to feed there at night more than anything else because of how open it would be. So you find that they will enjoy that side of it. What they don't like is when it gets very windy. So often with sort of rain like this, and particularly a morning like we're having this morning, is it's cold and windy, and that's not an elephant's favorite thing. And the reason why they don't like the wind is because it interferes with their hearing. So they have these big ears which help cool them down, but the side effect of that is that they hear it incredibly well, and so when it gusts and there's lots of wind, it affects their hearing, and they can't really work out their environment as well as they probably want to. And that's why they have a situation that they get a little bit kind of nervy and head into try and get into thick, dense areas. The other side of the rain situation is that what makes elephants quite happy about rain is the fact that rain means growth and means vegetation and means water, and elephants require both of those en masse. So they will try and feed off grasses, leaves, those kind of things, and water obviously they're going to be trying to drink and trying to enjoy as much as possible. So when it does rain, they will have a situation that they're going to be pretty happy about it, and they're going to enjoy the fruits of that rain, so what follows the rain more than anything else. So at the actual time, probably if it's warmish temperatures like it was last night, then they would have been quite happy. But now this morning, if it rains, it's going to be cold, and the little ones you'll find are going to try and keep huddled up and close to mom, and it's almost like they try and steal a bit of warmth from their mom themselves. So not so much that they enjoy rain at this time when it's cold like this. But you can see the little one just tucked in there, and very, very short compared to the others, and almost not visible. Donna, you'll find that the ellies, they do get a little nervous in lightning storms. They definitely are far more on edge when there's thunder and lightning and all of that going on. They try to get themselves into obviously thicker, dense areas where they don't have to deal with the gusting wind and even the driving rain, and you'll go into drainage lines and places like that. But they are very perceptive animals. It's interesting because when we had the 2012 floods, in 2013 we had again flooding in the Sabi river system. You found the days before that flood happened, these elephants started to actually move away from the riverbed system. So they didn't spend time in the riverbed itself. They actually started pushing away from it, knowing that the water was going to rush in. So that they kind of work out. But normally you'll find them going into thicker, dense areas, which is normally along drainage lines and riverbed systems, and they'll try and just hide out there. You can imagine for some of them, it's particularly the newborn ellies that have never experienced a thunderstorm, they would have been very panicked on a night like last night when there was cracking of thunder and all kinds of other things. Whereas the adults, they've seen it all before. I mean, this big female that we were watching just now, she's probably now, I would say, at least in her 30s, maybe even early 40s, and so she's probably had 40 years of thunderstorms, so she knows exactly what to expect from it. It won't make her too nervous, other than that she just can't hear very nicely, and flashing lights and things like that elephants don't typically enjoy, so they'll be a little bit more on edge, but it is nature and it's part of things, and that's how they'll have to sort of deal with it. Unfortunately, they are starting to kind of disappear a little bit into deeper thickets. I'm going to try go forward, see if I can just get a better view on this one female that's starting to look as though she's coming out a little bit into a more open clearing. Just hold on. I think there might be a gap here that we can see a little bit better. Still not great. It's still very dense and thick inside there, so hopefully they will come out a little bit. But what we're probably going to do is we'll probably head towards Chitwa, because I did get confirmation that there is a leopard around there, and then we'll come back to these guys when they maybe come out onto our side. It looks like they might angle towards Djuma, so what we maybe do is go and check out the leopard and then come back to the side, and hopefully our ellies have crossed out and are into a better area to see them. Now, from fairly slow, methodical feeding ellies that are going about their business in, well, an elephant way, I believe James Henry has got his sausages, and, well, they are flat and sleepy.
Well, you've just come at the right time, everybody. The lioness has lifted her head. There is another lion just to the left, now moving with the speed of dead snail now, and that one's just gone to sleep. You can see a very full belly indeed, spotted belly. Interesting to see a spotted belly on a lion, of course, not entirely common on the adults, but not uncommon on the youngsters. Those spots will disappear, and if you are a new viewer, you might be wondering why I'm talking like this at a sighting that clearly has absolutely nothing going on at it other than lions sleeping and one trying to pick its eye out on a Capparis tomentosa bush. Well, the answer is one must tell the story in an enthusiastic voice. I don't think we're going to be here for too much longer, because these lions are not going to hunt anything unless it falls over the top of them, which I think is unlikely. I'm not sure what that little thing's got in there. Just to recap, this is the Sausage Tree Pride. They have killed something last year, or yesterday, I think. I suspect they were around here yesterday evening when we were looking for them, and the vultures are sitting above the remnants of their carcass. Shall I move, Fergus? You're right there, are you? There they are. And I suspect quite strongly it was a zebra. I haven't been down there. We will go and have a look shortly to see what it was. And then in front, all the way out, there seem to be some taupai. I've now lost them. There they are. You see the taupai there? There we are. Nicky, you're wondering about the amount of food that a lion can hold in its belly. I'm not sure how to answer that question. It really does depend, I suppose, on the size of the lion. And so proportionately, we're told that a lion can eat up to 25% of its body weight in one sitting. Now, I'm not sure that I've ever seen that. 25% of the body weight of a big male lion would be sitting somewhere around 50 kilograms of meat, which is 110 pounds. And I think that that's quite a lot. Maybe it's possible. I think you'll probably find that it's much closer to, on average, say about 15% for a really big meal. So let's say that lioness ate 15% of her body mass. She probably weighs in the region of 120 kilograms, so 15% of that. Goodness gracious, I've given myself a serious task here, haven't I? 15% of that would be roughly, I suppose, 20 kilograms or so of meat. 44 pounds. And then that would, sit in her belly for a little while as it went through the digestive system until it came out the other end as the world's most evil-smelling substance. And so, let's go with 15 to 20% of body mass. I believe up to 25, although I don't think I've ever seen a lion that's managed to put back 50 kilograms of food in one sitting. I hope that answers your question. So we've got 2 lionesses here, and 4 little cubs. Well, they're not very little anymore. They're probably the region of 8 months old, I think. So they've all weaned, and they'll be eating meat purely now, but doing absolutely nothing to help with looking after the family. They are incapable of hunting anything large at this stage. They'll try and catch the odd sort of bird or rodent or whatever it is that they can find, but that'll be normally when their mothers and aunts are off hunting, and while they're supposed to be sitting tight, waiting patiently. I think we're going to move towards... there's some hyena down there. Let's go back towards where I think the carcass is. There seem to be some hyena there. Hello, proud cat mama. Another difficult question to answer. It's a little bit of a how long is a piece of string. You say how important are cats or big cats, lions' whiskers? I imagine they're about as important as they are to any cat. They're not as long, interestingly, as leopard whiskers, which tend to be very long. And so I suppose because they move in more open areas, the sensory function is not that important as it might be for something like a leopard, perhaps, or a smaller cat which moves through thicker bush and tends to have much longer whiskers. Let's just move through here. We've got some hyenas and vultures. I don't want to frighten all the vultures away, so I'm just going to make a nice wide circle around. The hyenas definitely moving in towards the carcass. They might give these vultures a bit of a chase. In fact, almost certainly. Just move a little bit faster. There's a big leopard-faced vulture there. In fact, the size of that leopard-faced vulture, you don't really get an impression until you see it next to something like a hyena. Look at the size of it there. And you see them there, folk. The two of them together. See the difference there? That leopard-faced vulture, yes, it's standing on something. It's not standing on the ground. But it is tall in comparison with a hyena. And the hyena is thinking twice about going into that carcass, because just to the left of that, you will see once we've looked at the hyena, there are a lot of vultures. There they are. Look at them all. Now, I imagine they'd all scatter if the hyena got close, so let's move in a little bit closer. I noticed there also you would have seen me sort of looking towards the bottom of the car. We have a monitor over here, and so I can see what you are seeing at the same time. If you wondered why I was diving towards the footwell, that's what it was. I'm supposed to time it so that I don't do that while the camera's on me, but I really made a bit of a hash of that. I'm sorry. There seem to be 2 spots of carcass here. The hyenas moving around, or 2 patches where there are vultures on the ground. This is a young hyena now going past us, and I say young because it's in very, very good condition. Anyway, there are all the vultures on the ground. Lots of rupels, griffins, white-faced vultures, white-backed vultures. And then, of course, that monstrous leopard-faced vulture there. Look how big he is. He's a magnificent fellow, isn't he? Hello, Campy and Dewey's mummy. What a interesting Twitter handle you have, Campy and Dewey's mummy. You want to know the collective noun for vultures? Well, biologically it would be a flock. Any bird would be a flock. I suppose that there are probably a number of other words that are used for fun. You'll find them in sort of safari books, I guess. I don't know of a... there is another one. But it wouldn't be used in a biological way. So, yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I'm sure somebody will tell you, though, and me, therefore. So if anybody has an idea what, just for fun, a group of vultures is called, other than a flock, I'd love to know. I have definitely heard it before, unless somebody made it up, which is quite possible. But it's not like a sort of murder of crows. It's not as well established as that, or a parliament of owls or something like that, which are kind of well established in the English lexicon, although they're not really used biologically. Fly. I'm not sure that I've ever heard a vulture go kickle, kickle as it flies over the top of me, but I'm going to go with Louise's kickle the vultures there. Sounds as good as anything I've heard before. Oh, kettle. A kettle of vultures because of the boiling noise they make when they fly. I think I'm getting it right now. A kettle of vultures. That's quite cool. I'm not sure. Don't think Louise made that up, so I'm sure it comes from somewhere. Thank you, Louise. Well done. Good job. Good morning to you. And in case you're wondering, of course, we are operating this. It's not just presenters and cameramen who are operating. There's the white back of the white-backed vultures. We are not just operating this as presenters and cameramen from two different locations. The two final controls are operating at the same time. So in South Africa, we've got Megan and Louise there. And out here, I think today is just Chantal and maybe Alice helping her out. I'm not sure. Just me, says Chantal, rather sadly. Now, Fuzzman Sparkles, I don't believe I've heard from you for a little while. You want to know about the palm nut vulture and whether it occurs here. The answer, of course, is that I don't know, but I'm going to look for you right now, and the answer is no, they are not found here. Now, palm nut vulture, although found often on the coast, and certainly it is found in Kenya on the coast, it's not found in this area. You do find them away from the coast, unsurprisingly, or quite interestingly, only, I'm looking at a map now, I'm not just sort of sucking this out of my brain, you find them on the western banks of Lake Victoria and up towards Rwanda and Burundi. And I think you'll find that the rainfall in those areas is that much higher than it is here. And I think that you'll therefore find, unsurprisingly, Fergus? Palms. Good. Palms. And palms, of course, form the backbone of the diet for the palm nut vulture, which will also eat other things. It will scavenge as well, but largely it will eat palm nuts. Righty. Trailer, I believe, has managed to find something much smaller than a palm nut vulture. Let's go and find out what it is.
We've got a De-Arnold's barbird. I think I'm saying that correctly. De-Arnold's. I don't know how to pronounce that name of the bird, but very cool. I have not seen one, obviously, compared to our crested barbets in South Africa that we see on a regular basis. They're not quite as colourful. Now, there were a few of them sitting here and in the tree, but they've flown off since, and then luckily one has decided to stick around. But they have an interesting call too, and they were calling just a moment ago, so maybe they'll do it again, because unfortunately I don't have the call to play for you. I've only got the Southern African bird sort of app on my phone. It doesn't quite cover Kenya, and we don't get these in South Africa. This is very, very cool. Please make your call again. I'm sure they feed on exactly the same things, on predominantly fruit, and that would explain why they're hanging around these sort of... I don't even know what type of area you would call this, but it reminds me of Zambia. Lots of erosion, lots of gullies, some small rivers and things going through here. but it's a beautiful area nonetheless. So that's a nice bird to add to the list. I'm going to have to get my notebook out in a second and write down all the birds we've seen today before I forget them. But that's very, very pretty. The call I preferred their call compared to the crested barbet, but now of course the bush has gone deathly quiet. Dare I mention, please make a sound for us. That's fine. Finished singing for the day and is now going to preen itself. And the sun is also just starting to make headway sort of through some of those clouds now. So the birds should appreciate it, especially after getting soaking wet last night, to warm up and make sure that those feathers are nice and dry. But it's such a cool bird. And I hope that you're all taking screenshots, building up your list. Very nice. Wonderful. So that we can see them. Remember, if you do take any screenshots, hashtag Safari Live with them so we can all have a look. And also just keep letting us know what number you are on your bird's list. Gina, you said that's number 34. We've gone 2 up today. That's good. I'm glad that I could have helped contribute to your bird's list. We've got some elephants now. Hi, elephants. I do want to go on that road, though. We'll just stop. We'll have a look from here. I'm not going to go heading around the elephants because I want to take another road. Myself and Manu haven't explored this area. It's new. We're right up, I think, are we past the Olololo gate? So we're basically behind the Olololo gate. We're still in the Mara Conservancy, though. But it's just another area that I haven't actually explored. And it is very pretty around here. We did see some lions as well, but they were in such a tricky spot and there's no off-roading around you, so we couldn't get into them. But they were also fast asleep doing absolutely nothing. Now, Manu says he hasn't seen lions up here before, and I suppose that's because we haven't really driven around here. I presumed, I did see 2 lionesses and some cubs. I'm sure there could have been more. It's sort of very eroded around here, so there's lots of little nooks and crannies where the animals can sort of lay in, and then makes it virtually impossible. You can't see. So I think it must have been the Olololo females that were up here. But can try and come and have a look a little bit later and see if they've moved into a better spot where we can access them. But for now, elephants are just moving about. They're going on with their day. You also a stumpy elephant. Also got no tail. Remember we saw that tiny little one not so long ago, quite close to the escarpment, that had lost its tail. It seems to be a trend, not a very nice trend though. I would hate for any animal to lose its tail for a number of different reasons, but mainly because not being able to swat the flies. I think that's so sad. Luckily, that elephant, though, has got some big ears. It can flap the flies away, and also got a trunk, and you can use it to pick the dust up and soil up and throw that over its body, which not all the animals can do. So I suppose it's still lucky in terms of trying to get rid of the bugs. There's many other mechanisms that it can use. Okay, but we're going to keep investigating around you. Thank you, elephants. It's always great to see you around. I'm going to reverse. This is this road that I want to drive. It looks so beautiful. Right. I'm going to try and do some reversing here and hopefully not drive off the edge and plummet to our death. I'm just joking, that won't happen. However, Tristan is playing a game of Where's Wally, but not Where's Wally. Where's the cat, and which cat is it?
Exactly, Taylor. That is exactly what is happening at the moment. It is possibly the worst place that she could have lay in this whole section, and you might be seeing a little bit of movement in amongst that bundle of grass, but that apparently is Kuchava. Whether or not it is her, well, I can't even tell you because she's busy feeding inside there. I can't see a thing. All I can see is movement every now and then. So I think it is Kuchava, but I have absolutely no idea. What's happened is she's apparently killed a duiker out in the open section and has then dragged it into this bundle of grass, and it's the perfect place for a leopard because at the end of the day she can feed inside there and there's very little that's going to spot her. So things like vultures, hyenas, the various other animals that could rob her of her carcass are not going to be able to see a single thing inside this thicket. No matter which angle you come from, there really isn't a good view anywhere. So we're just sitting and playing a patience game. What I'm hoping is that once she's finished feeding, because she is feeding quite extensively, I can hear her crunching every now and then. It's not easy to hear it, but every now and then we do hear a crunch, and hopefully then once she's fed, she will start to come out and come lie somewhere where we can at least see her and make sure of who we're looking at, and that there is in fact a leopard. But isn't that camouflage amazing? That leopard is no more than, I would say, 2 meters from where I am at the moment, and only when you look really closely and when you look for movement can you pick it up. So there you can see her rosettes just hidden behind all of that brown, dreary, drab grass. It is seriously amazing to see just how well these guys blend in. You would think that animals like this would easily be exposed at this distance, but it's just incredible to watch. Now I'm pretty sure, like I said, she's going to go to town on this dike. She's going to feed, she's going to try and restore the nutrients, get a bit of meat in to stay warm. Now Anna Marie, you say she's just a blur of spots with that camouflage. Exactly, she's really not very much more than just a spotty coat behind some long grass. So it will get better eventually. We just have to be patient, and if there's one thing we've learnt over the last little bit, is that being patient with leopards, you generally get rewarded. So while it's not a great view at the moment, and while we're not seeing too much of who this is or what's going on, in time, as things go, and as she's fed, like I say, she'll get a full belly, and I don't think she's going to lie where the carcass is. I'm pretty sure she will come out a little bit, and we will then get her grooming after she's fed. And the reason why she's not going to lie exactly right next to the carcass is because there's going to be flies, and there's going to be various other things that are going to be there, and they're going to drive her mad. Also, that grass will be damp, it will be wet. She'll want to come out, clean her coat up, and get herself a little bit more dry. So I'd imagine she will come out and sit somewhere, at least where we can see her. But our cat streak on Djuma continues, so we still have a good run. I don't know how many days it is now. How many are we? 18, I think. Lou, I don't know. Lou, maybe you can let us know. Which is quite phenomenal that we've had 18 days of cats, and I think all of them have featured leopards. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we've had... is it 20 days already? That's crazy. No, it can't be 20 days. I was back on the 10th, Lou, so it must be 17 days that we're on. 17 days of leopard and lion action, and we can't say no to that. And at the end of the day, it's going to change. Unfortunately, our run of cats is going to be really halted by the weather we've just experienced. This rainy weather is going to make life a lot more difficult. And you can see as soon as the grass starts to grow again, we're going to be dealing with sites like this to try and see the cats, and to try and see what sort of animals we can spot is going to be really very difficult. Nikki, you saying, could you imagine accidentally stumbling into that? Yes, Nikki, I could, because I have accidentally stumbled into that a few times. I've had situations where I've come around a corner and there's been this grassy patch like this, and you kind of all of a sudden just hear this low growl and this tail flicking, and right next to you is this big-eyed leopard just staring at you with its kill underneath its belly. It's really quite a freaky thing to see, and you certainly get a little cold shiver that runs down your spine, and you sort of look at it for a second and hope that that leopard decides not to come at you, and then you just try and get out of there as slowly and as methodically as possible. But it is a difficult thing to deal with, and like I say, I have had it a few times. I've had it with Lamula. I once walked around exactly like this, a similar situation, and I was tracking him, and I couldn't work it out because I couldn't find his tracks going past it, and my tracker and I were looking, and there was a little bush just like this, and we were walking around that bush. We must have gone around it about 4 times. Eventually, though, we spotted him as I was kind of going around the bush. I just saw these eyes staring at us, and he had been watching us going around and around him, and we were no more than a meter away, and he was just looking. So it does happen quite often. And leopards, the thing about them is when you do find them like that, is to just pretend as though you haven't seen them. So if you just kind of walk past as though there's nothing there, and you just pretend like you have not even in any way noticed a leopard, then generally they'll just flatten themselves and they'll watch you go by. It's very seldom that they'll be aggressive. It's only when they've got cubs or a food item like this and they think that you might steal it will they start to get a little bit more upset. But unfortunately, like I say, we don't really have much of a view of him, of her, should I say. So we're just going to sit here and we're going to hope that this little leopard is going to come out at some point. We have to be a bit patient at the end of the day. It's not every day that we see leopard with a kill, and hopefully something like a hyena does rock up, because if a hyena does arrive and does come out, then maybe she'll drag this towards a tree and get it up into a tree, and then the view of her will be that much better. But it really is not very pleasant at the moment, and the camouflage just astounds me. You can just see a little bit of movement every now and then behind the grass, but other than that, we've got very little to work with. Now, unfortunately, there is a gap that we would probably be able to see her a little bit better, but it would mean driving right on top of her, which I don't want to do at all. So I'm going to have a situation where I'm going to try and reposition just now and try and find another way to get in here. There is unfortunately 2 trees behind me, but I think if I just move slightly, I might actually be able to get into a situation where I can see her, at least just her head, because at the moment very little is going on. But interesting that we were talking about earlier this morning, we were saying that we'd have a situation where predators were going to be active in terms of hunting in the early hours of this morning, and it seems that was the case, because the guys were telling me that when they found her, this duiker was not even dead yet. It was still kicking. They could hear it thrashing around in the grass, and then she went and lay and then actually killed it and then started feeding off it. So it's these kind of conditions that we're going to see a number of different predators going after their prey items, and we're going to have a situation where I would imagine most of our leopards were fairly successful last night. Now the thing is with this particular sort of situation is that unfortunately, as we were explaining earlier, is that to spot this now, if you didn't know that she was here, if somebody hadn't seen her standing up earlier, there's no ways that we're going to see them. And if she doesn't come out of this area for 2-3 days, we won't even know she's here. And that's what's going to happen with a lot of the other cats, and why I was saying it's going to be quiet on a cat front. But let me see if I can just try and reposition slightly. Senzo, if you can just push that stump off to the left a little bit for me. So if you, let's see if we can just push slightly back. No, we're not going to go. There's a big stump behind us. Anyway, we'll try and reposition and try and find a better way to do this while we're not on air. I believe Taylor is out in the mire, and she has probably one of the things that I really wish I could see that we don't see here, and that is the beautiful, beautiful eland.
How beautiful is this framing of all those eland heads together with the horns? Now, it's actually a very nice herd of eland, surprisingly, because most of the time they're so split up and scattered. You don't really get to see them all squashed together. But this morning, we've been lucky, maybe not with the cats, but with the smaller things. And they are such fascinating creatures, and there's a really big bull in there too. He's the one on the left. He's got an exceptionally dark face. He's just standing amongst some cows. Wow. Look at the size of him. He is a mean-looking antelope, don't you think? Getting a clean from the yellow-billed oxpecker. Some of the females just ruminating. There's quite a few bulls in here. You can see there's another bull actually top left. You can just sort of see, just by the size of his horns, how thick they're getting. That looks like it's probably a young bull. Like I said, there's a few of them here. It's interesting, the dynamics of the eland in this area. I mean, typically I would only see, one really big bull with a group of females, or it was not uncommon to see bachelor groups. But at the moment, and maybe it's just because of the migration, I suppose we see the same thing with the wildebeest. Everybody's just together, big bulls, young bulls, females, all just huddling up. And they better be careful, because there are some lions around here and they're not too far away. And if they go wandering in that direction, who knows what might happen. But I just thought it was really great just to see so many so close together, and also not running away from us. For such large creatures, they're quite sensitive and a little bit on the shy side. Especially the ones here. They're so cool. Look at this. This is amazing. She's got very long horns, this female on the right here. Very, very long, straight horns. I love watching them. I could actually just sit and watch them. Oh, hello, what's going on the left there? Was it a male and a female? Let's just quickly see. There's a young boy getting very excited. It's 2 young boys. And I think one on the right was trying to mount the one on the left. But normally it's a dominance display when they do that. That was quite interesting. I just saw him jumping up. Calm down now. Yes, you're very young. You've still got a long way to go before you can even think of it, my friend. There's some bigger bulls in here that will give you a hiding. I think he's listening to me. Perhaps he's listening to my life lessons here. Right. Now, Erna, you're wondering if that is a large necktie or a dewlap. It's a dewlap, so it's the same thing as that what we sort of see with leopards. And then, of course, I've completely forgotten what other animals we see with dewlaps. But I think out here in Africa, the eland is the one that shows it off the absolute best, especially the big boys. It's a serious flap of skin. And the girls sort of have a small dewlap, but it's nowhere near the size of the males. You can see his is exceptionally larger. And also notice the color of him. Look how much more gray he is rather than a tan color. That's also another way you can try and tell the difference, although it depends on how much testosterone that particular individual is secreting. But typically the bulls will start to go gray around the neck, and then that sort of spreads as they get older and older to over their shoulders and down towards their rump. Oxpeckers are very busy, but let's carry on. We're doing wonderful exploring this morning. Still looking for some big cats. Now, Odie Farming, you've said that you love the spiral of their horns. Well, it is quite nice. I don't think it's as impressive as a kudu spiral, but they are the largest member of the tragelaphid. So, eland, kudu, nyala, bushbuck. The ones that we see on a regular basis from our two locations, which is quite cool to see. Now we can complete it. Tristan is still sitting with Kuchava, my favorite leopard in the sands. Let's go across to her and Tristan, and hopefully Kuchava's not hiding away anymore.
No, so she's come out now and she's starting to move, which is really good news for us. So she's just on my left-hand side and is starting to come out and start kind of moving southwards, which I'm interested to see how far she goes, because she's gone a long way already from the kill. She's probably, I would say, getting close to 100 meters from where she killed it and is still going southwards. So I wonder if maybe she's going to head for water. That's possibly where she's going. I'm going to try and keep up with her. It's not an easy place to follow a leopard inside here. It really is very dense, very thick, lots of monkey orange, and it's a place that is designed not for vehicles. It really is a tough place. I've done a lot of walks around here and always laughed at the thought of having to follow a leopard through, and I never really had a chance to do it. I've had a few leopards in this general vicinity. Never really been taken through these blocks, but it seems as though today is that day and we're going to have a tough time of it. There are lots of aardvark holes here, lots of monkey orange, sickle bush. It is a horrible place. Do not go inside there. Please don't go inside there. You are going to go inside there, aren't you? But it's definitely Kuchava. Now that she's out and about, you can see her very clearly that it was her. She doesn't have the tatty ears that Tandi's got. Still very clean faced, and for me she's always got this wide-eyed expression. I suppose a little bit like Tandi in a way as well. No, don't go and lie inside there. From one horrible thicket to another by the looks of things, but at least we've had a brief glimpse of her, and we've at least seen some sign of her moving. It was what I was hoping for, was once she had finished her carcass that she was going to move. I wonder, maybe she's got another carcass that she's going towards, and that's why she's heading into this little thicket, because it's almost like a place that she would stash a carcass. It's not raining, so there's no reason for her to go and sleep underneath there, but maybe there's something else that she's looking for. She's kind of sniffing around. No, don't lie down in there. Kuchava, really? Sorry guys, unfortunately this is what happens. No, she's gone right in there. Let's see if I can get round and get a better view of her. Just trying to have a look at her. It looks as though there might be a gap from the other side. MKP, you're asking, is it possible that a leopard's coat has changed and evolved to blend in drier winter months than it is obviously during the summer? I'm not sure. Leopards, as far as we go back, pretty much have had the same golden colored coat, and it's probably because they occur in just so many different places, and that spotted patterned coat that you see, it blends in with a multitude of different environments. So you'll see it blending in mountainous areas, grassy areas like this. It blends in even desert places where there's very little grass. I'm just trying to see if I can get in here. So I think it's more a case that it's just about the fact that it blends in so many different ways, and it can kind of keep her from being seen, whether it's in grass like this or whether it's in open plains like in the deserts or anything like that. Actually, where there's really quite a nice view from here, so we'll have a good one. There we go. Sensor, how's that? So that's better. Now we can at least see. So I don't think it's evolved too much for the dry wintry period. Remember that this animal's still got to survive 6 months of the year where it's green and lush, and that's going to need some sort of camouflage as well. So you can't have a situation where an animal's evolved only for a certain period of the year and for when it's dry. It's got to be able to survive outside of that, and that means that this camouflage pattern has got to work in those times too, and it does. I mean, if you see when the grass is green, you would think this lighter color would really stand out, but it doesn't. Those darker spots then start to match the dark dappled light that we see in the summery time, because remember, all these trees will have leaves on them and there will be shade that is provided from all of that, and she'll still blend in incredibly well during the summer period. So the coat is more a fact that it needs to keep her alive all year round, not just from a dry point perspective, and when the color of the bush is this more yellowy color to match the kind of coats. It just means that they were a little bit more successful in the winter months. But now she's going to stop and start grooming herself, so obviously this is where she's decided to settle for the day. She's going to end up with a situation where she'll groom, she'll clean, she's going to use that rough tongue to get rid of any little bits of meat or any sort of loose fur, anything that's got caught up in the toes when she's been hunting, and get herself in good condition, and then she'll probably fall asleep right here. It is close enough that she can see directly towards her kill and be able to see the meal, and if something goes in that direction that she can get to it. But it's a little further than I first thought. I thought she was going to lie down, within 15 meters of it, but for some reason she's decided this is where she wants to sleep. She feels like being underneath a tree and branch. Maybe there's less wind in there and it just feels a lot better to be hidden inside, but at least we've got a nice view of her now. It's much better than what we had earlier, so we will take this for now. And she, at the end of the day, is probably not going to move much more this morning. I highly doubt she's going to go from where she is now anywhere else other than with her head down and sleeping, or not. Maybe she's now turned around and decided to just face us, which is really good. Now, Senzo's asking if I've got comms. Senzo, I don't at the moment, which is quite strange because everything seems to be in and working, so I'm not 100% why it's not working. So Lou, if you can just speak to me and hopefully I can hear you. Ah, there we go, you're back. Welcome back, Lou. Nice to have you back in my ear again. Always good when you have the voices in your head. So there we go. Now, while Kuchava gets herself groomed and settled down for the morning, I'm pretty sure she is going to end up in a situation where she will sleep, but I believe James Henry has a rather large big cat that, well, is doing the same thing and is having a little nap.
Right, here we have found a male lion now that I think has probably been feeding extensively on whatever it was that those females managed to kill yesterday evening. You can see his belly is so full he can barely breathe, and he's been resting his fat foot up against the base of that balanites tree. And Ray, if you were wondering, of course, if you're still watching, you were wondering about the trees that we get here and the most common ones. Well, that's one of them there. That's one of the balanites aegyptia trees, and there he's put his foot back on the trunk just to kind of I guess it's a little bit like after you've overeaten, and I've done this before. I've sort of lain down on my bed and put my hand on the wall and just to sort of make the world sit still a little bit. It's not only overeating that does that, of course. It can be a little bit of over what should we say, consumption of other things. You sometimes need to steady the world around you, and that's what that lion is doing there. Now, I suspect that he is heading towards the drainage system in which I have found a number of lions before, and I don't know who they are, if they belong to the Olololo pride, the Angama pride, or to the sausage tree pride, perhaps a split. And so what we're going to do is probably leave this fat fellow sitting here in the shade of his Balanites tree, where I suspect he will spend much of the rest of the day, and we'll head towards that drainage line where he may go. So what I'm going to do quickly is just take a pin here. What we do is take a pin and send it to the group of presenters so that when the afternoon comes along, they can come along here if they want to. So while you look at the male lion there, I will send my pin and I shall write as the description, big, fat, male, fast asleep. Good. Excellent. Okay, we're going to carry on, and I'll show you where we're going. We're going to go to the edge of the tree line over there. You can see there's a sort of gap between the tree line there, and that's where we're going to head. That's where this chap's lionesses, or the ones I've been describing, often hang around. Not the Angama pride, because we know that the Angamas have been in a different area when I've been watching lions there. So I suspect quite strongly that it is a member, or members of the sausage tree prides. All right, I believe that Tristan is with She Who Is Scared. Let us go across to She Who Is Scared and find out if she is in fact scared.
Well, James, she's not scared in any way whatsoever. She's just watching us and having a little look, and she's become such a different leopard to the first time I ever saw her. The first time I ever saw her, she was slinky and shy and moving around, and as James says, was named because she who is scared and never used to like vehicles, and now she's become this relaxed, very, very chilled cat, and we're spending time with her, and we've been spoilt in the last sort of 2 weeks because we had her with that mating with Tingana, where we had her for it was 3 drives in a row that we got to see her up and down and moving and spending a lot of time around her. And I was thinking when we were watching her at that stage that she's a lot more relaxed, but I thought maybe it's just because of the mating and with Tingana, and that's why, you know, she's become that way, and that she's, because she's mating with him, her focus is on him and not on us. But this morning she's absolutely fine. I mean, the vehicles were parked right next to her and she was okay. Where are you going now, girl? You're just repositioning yourself. Yep, you've got to groom now on the tail as well. It's important to cover all bases. We've seen this with leopards over the last few days as well, is that there's one thing that a leopard likes to be, that is clean. And they will absolutely get every little part of them, and they groom tail and legs and coat and tummy and back and everywhere that they can, to make sure that they're in the best possible condition. And this is very typical behavior. After a kill that she's made and a feeding session, she will get like this, and she will groom and she will clean herself and make sure that there is nothing on her that is rotten in any way that could attract parasites or anything like that. And also she just doesn't want her coat to get matted with blood. And there we go. So groomed, and we've now decided this is where we're going to settle for the day. I don't think we're going to see too much more from Kuchava this morning. I think she's going to probably try and sleep. Sabi plays. The chances of Kuchava moving into Djuma, I suppose there is a chance, but I highly doubt it. What I think we're seeing is a slow push from Tundi and Shadow into Djuma. We've seen Shadow the last couple of days pushing fairly far in towards the central parts of Djuma, and then we've seen Tundi, well, she's been ranging all over the place. She was seen the other day even close to the Buffelshoek boundary, so she's really made a big push northwards and has been spending very little time down in the southern section and the southern parts of her territory. At the end of the day, Tundi, when I first arrived in the northern Sabi Sands in 2011, her territory was pretty much the western edge, eastern edge of Chitwa, and in Coral, and a little bit of Cheetah Plains. It was a tiny little territory far in the east, and slowly over the years it grew and shifted, and she started to come more into Chitwa, nets, vessels, little Gowrie, and she started to take that section. Now she's pushed heavily into Djuma, and that's opened up a gap for Kuchava to now start coming into this area. And so we're seeing Kuchava a lot more on Chitwa. I mean, I remember when we first started here, Kuchava was a Cheetah Plains leopard. The first time I saw her with Safari Live was all the way around 3 in a row Pan, which is very far east from where we are right now. But I think in Kanyeni's pushed her a little bit further west now, and she's now sitting sort of western Cheetah Plains, and Nets, and a little bit now into Chitwa. And I'm hoping what's going to happen is that Kuchava will take Chitwa for herself. At the end of the day, it's a successful place for her to den. She was also born in this area, she knows this area, and so hopefully she'll get Chitwa, and Thandi will then push up into Djuma and take over Karula's territory with Shadow. So they'll each sort of portion that out, and Shadow the western side, Thandi the eastern side, and hopefully then Thandi breeds on our side and we'll find her denning in the Mulawati somewhere. That's what I think is going to happen, and Kuchava then den somewhere on Chitwa. For that situation would be absolutely ideal for us going forward in the next few months. The nice thing is that hopefully little Kuchava, even though she's now sleeping, I'm hoping that the mating that she's just done in some way does take, because wouldn't it be amazing if she does produce little cubs? It would be another generation from the Karula Safari lineage, which would just be absolutely wonderful to see. You can see it's very slow breathing because it's not very cold today, and I mean it's not very warm, and so her rate of breathing can. She'll go back and feed a little bit later. Now, Stephen, you're asking, are there any leopards on Djuma that are not related at all? Mvula is not related to Karula. Any of the other males. So males generally, in terms of females, the ones that we've seen in Chile, I suppose in Chile is somewhat related to Karula. At the end of the day, she's from Karula's sister, basically. So there is a correlation there. So in terms of females, very few, in fact, and there's really not many at all. I think Inkanyeni would be the only one that isn't, because Salehesh's bloodline is in some way linked to Karula's bloodline. So all of those females, which is in Chile, in Sele, Tiani, that's all Salehesh's side of things. And like I say, they are linked to Karula. So very few females that are not linked to that bloodline, but they are the males in Tingana and Mvula, and I think Inkanyeni is not related to Karula. I might be wrong, but I think she might not be related as well. Other than that, no, that's everybody else is still in the sort of line of Karula's lineage, and so it's really been a successful. It's been a very, very successful lineage, and Karula, and in her own right, was just probably the most successful leopard. We were discussing it the other day, and we were saying that at the end of the day, her lineage has just been absolutely unbelievable. For a female to have produced as many cubs as she did, and to have only lost one that we know about, is just the most phenomenal thing. I don't know of another leopard in anywhere that I've ever read about that has had the same success as what Karula did, and has contributed as much to a lineage as what she did for this particular section. Probably the only slight dampener on what's happened with Karula is that it seems as though her females, other than Thandi and Shadow, have had really a tough time. We know Shavinzi has disappeared. We don't know where Shavinzi is. And then now with Shongile, we haven't seen her for a month, and also for the chance of Shongile to sort of take over in this area is going to be quite difficult for her. Thandi and Shadow are going to constantly push her. It's going to be really tough for her to end up being dominant in this section. While I don't think anything has happened to Shongile, I just think for her to actually become dominant, given how young she was left in this section, is going to be really, really difficult. So that's probably the only sort of downside, is that a lot of her cubs were male, and most of them are going to shift out of this area. We already don't see any sign of Induna and Mishu, and Shivambalana is now also out of the Sabi Sands. Very few updates on him, and who knows where Hosanna is going to end up. At least with quarantine, he did end up close by, but Hosanna, I'm not 100% sure. So it's probably the only slight sort of tough part about it. I don't think it's a negative thing in any way. It's just a tough part. It would have been really nice if we had a lot more females and they'd all stuck around. At the end of the day, Thandi and Shadow have become legends in their own right, and they've also positively contributed. And so I suppose Kuchava is a really good example of Thandi producing a female and us inheriting another in that sort of line of beautiful females that there is with Karula and the cubs. So it's been interesting also just to watch how they've all split apart and how they've all ended up. And I really do hope that Shongile at some stage does settle and she becomes this individual that is able to dominate around the northern side of Djuma and maybe into Buffelshoek a little bit, until such time as Thandi and Shadow maybe move on, and then she can start shifting south back into her sort of natal area. It does happen like that quite often, as you will find female cubs push out away from their mom as their moms become older and they start to sort of get a little bit slower, so the younger females then start pushing the mother and actually start moving back to where they were born and then taking over those areas, exactly like what we're seeing with Shadow and Tundi. As life has progressed, they've encroached deeper and deeper back to the areas that they were first part of. So it'll be interesting to see where little Shongile ends up and where she goes, and also where Kuchava goes, because at the end of the day, both Shadow and Tundi are not the youngest leopards. They, approaching 11 years old. They're getting older in life, and at the end of the day, it's only another 3-4 years maybe that we can expect out of both of those leopards. And so Kuchava and Shongile have an opportunity then to push into those areas. So hopefully those will be the two females we then start to see a lot more, and maybe then in Chile and Tiani from the western side as well. But that's the kind of breakdown of our leopards at the moment. There's not really too many other females that I know of pushing in from Buffelshoek. It's really strange to me that Buffelshoek has such a low density in comparison to what we're seeing south of that on Djuma and the surrounding areas, and it must be to do with the fact that there isn't a really big drainage line that runs on Buffelshoek. So we have the Mulawati, which comes, but once it goes from Gari Dam, it becomes quite a small, very sort of insignificant drainage line. It's not massive, and so it seems as though the terrain up there is not as good as what we would see from Djuma and southwards, with bigger riverbed systems and dams that allows for leopards to really thrive. The other side of it, I think, is that the lions spend so much time on Buffelshoek that it's a lot harder for the leopards to do well there. They prefer these areas where the lions are not as dense and not as sort of structured and really in sort of that area. So I think that's probably why it's not happening, but it's strange to me. I would have thought we would have had at least some sort of lineage from the north, whether it be Manyeleti or Buffelshoek, that would have seen some leopards coming into our area and pushing, but we haven't seen even males. It's been very few. There's this unknown male that's arrived recently on Buffelshoek, but other than that, it's been a long time since a big male has come through and come onto the scene from where we are. Right, but I think what we're going to do with Kuchava is probably leave her to herself, because she's not going to do much this morning. I don't think she's going to do anything else, in fact, since she's laid down and rested. But before we go, Rich, you want to know, do the leopards in the Mara have bigger territories than those of the Sabi Sands? Rich, I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine yes, the Mara leopards' territories will be larger, and the simple reason for that is that the density here in the Sabi Sands is probably a little bit higher, which means that there's a lot more competition for an area, and therefore you'll find that the territories are actually a lot smaller. Our territories are not very big for our females, and if you think that when we talk about Djuma and we're talking about all these different leopards that are around us, it's only a sort of 2,000 acre area that we're talking about, and all of these are featuring within that 2,000 acre area, which is crazy. So in the Mara, I'm not 100% sure what the density is like there. I think James and Scott and Brent and Jamie and Taylor would be in a far better position to answer exactly what the density is like and how big the territories are there. But I would imagine that their territories must be much larger than what our territories are here, for both male and female. And at the end of the day, here is a lot of competition for both sexes of the species, and that means much smaller territories. Right, now Kuchava is sleeping. Like I said, we're going to probably leave her here. We'll probably come back this afternoon and see what she's up to, but I believe James has made his way towards a tree line, and well, hopefully there'll be something lurking on said tree line.
Well, I'm afraid we have failed to find any lions in this particular area here. We did come and drive around this well-wooded drainage system, and unfortunately no lions here, but we did find some very pretty flowers. Hot they are? Well, Judy H, let's get you onto this one, I think. I don't know what those are. They are stunning. And I'm not allowed to get out the car and go and fetch a piece, I'm afraid. I suppose I could do it illegally, but you never know who's watching, of course. Yes, I think we won't chance that while we're live, certainly. Anyway, beautiful flowers there. We've had some lovely flowers today. Taylor's had a rather excellent birding morning, and I'm very jealous of the barbet she saw. I was jealous of the hornbills, but they flew over the top of us after they left her, so we saw those. But really some very special birds to be found in this area, and again we're going to be seeing more and more of them as the migration season winds to its inevitable close. I just so very much want to walk. I'll show you where I want to walk. I want to walk from those flowers into those trees and then to the right of those and go all the way up this drainage system, and you can follow it. You can follow the line of the trees all the way up towards Angama Mara, where we call ourselves at home. Very privileged to call ourselves at home there. And this system goes all the way up into the, into the crevice, I suppose, between the two slopes there. And you could go all the way up there. It would be the shortest possible route home. And I think that you would have a spectacular walk up there, probably about 3 kilometers or so. I cannot see anything on our monitor. There we are. That's it, and that's room. I don't know what room that is. That's the South Camp, everybody, but don't worry. I'm sure everyone's on game drive. We're not about to see somebody pop out in their birthday suit to greet the African morning, which would be a disturbing sight, no doubt. Especially on a family show. Not so, folks. Yes. Okay, on we go. Try and find some spectacular bird like Taylor on my way home. Oh, Anna Marie, interestingly, you say, are there any volcanic areas in this region, sort of close to the Mara where we are? The answer is no. But there are some ancient volcanoes. The Ngorongoro crater and various craters similar along the edges of the Rift Valley are certainly volcanic. They're certainly tectonically active. And I suppose there's probably a good chance or time for me to quickly give you an idea of where we sit. We're sitting between two pieces of Africa that are basically moving away from the continent and into the Indian Ocean. You and I and everybody alive today will not be alive at the time when it eventually moves into the sea, because it's happening over, of course, millions of years, and so it's happening over geological time. But that separation, the Great Rift Valley, which is to the east of us, and the Western Rift Valley, which is unsurprisingly to the west of us, that's right, are two parts of that, and we sit in between the two. And the movement of the landscape and the widening of those valleys has created a huge amount of volcanic activity here over the over millions of years. The Ngorongoro crater, probably the most famous volcano of the area. And up into the mountains of Rwanda and Burundi, you will still there find one or two still active and smoking volcanoes. And they are on the edges, on the western edges of the Western Rift Valley. And so yes, certainly some volcanic activity around sort of to the far west of us, not a huge amount though. But the soil here is definitely richer than the soil perhaps that you'd find, for example, in the Kruger, and the reason for that is because of the volcanic activity that's put ash all over this soil here, and there's been very little volcanic activity down in the southern Kruger. Some of those soils in southern Kruger are the most ancient, some of the most ancient in the world. In other words, they haven't changed for longer than any other soils haven't. I believe our picture's jumping a bit. I do apologize for the jumping picture. It's got nothing to do with Fergus or I. Good, on we go. It's quite interesting. You stop and you have a chat like that while you're looking at the camera, and everybody comes past and they stop and they look because they think, oh, these guys must be looking at something. But we weren't, were we, Fergus? No. It was all a hilarious joke. Now, we are heading gently in the direction of home, and I'm just trying to decide which road we're going to take, because we took what is known as the road of death to Fergus and I on the way down here. It's just a very nasty road, and unless there's something really special to see on it, there's no real point to be on it. But there is somebody on it, which makes you think maybe they know something we don't. Now Fuzzman Sparkles, you're wondering about turricos and whether we've seen any of those. Yes, we have. I've seen two kinds of turrico, and for those of you who don't know what a turrico is, well, this is an opportune moment for me to show you, because they are very beautiful indeed. I left my book at home, but luckily I have this app I can show them to you. They are kinds of birds, of course, otherwise known as the lories, and I've seen two kinds. One, the Ross's turrico. Let me just type that in. Turrico. There he is. Absolutely spectacular bird. Fergus, where is most convenient? Is that right there? Yeah? Look at that bird. You know, you find that in the forests up around camp. So sort of golden, maroon and blue. So they're around the camp there. And then let me find the next one, if you wouldn't mind zooming out, Fergus, that would be great. I think the other one I've seen was was it Livingston's? It's very similar to the Livingston's. It wasn't Livingston's or shallows or fishers or black-billed. That's very worrying. Hang on a second, everybody. Let me just quickly have a look. It's one of these greeny ones. Ross's. Says that we don't get any others here. Maybe we get the purple crested. Purple crested you'll get in the Sabi sand. That's that one there. But I could have sworn I saw something very similar to a Neisner lory, which would be basically one like that, black-billed. And there's the map, so you don't find them here. So maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought I saw one of those as well. Certainly the Rosses you do find. Good. Those are the turricos. Let's carry on and see what else there is on offer. Not much at the moment. I'm just going to pop up to the top of this little crest here, and then we'll look down to see if that vehicle did know something that I do not. There is a network on the radio. We don't have the signal, and also the radio operates in such rapid-fire Swahili that it's almost impossible to hear what's going on. Anyway, we'll see what's going on there. Taylor apparently has got something interesting to show you.
We do. It's a secretary bird. There were plenty of them up here, but they were always fascinating to watch. And this one's particularly close to the car as well, which is quite nice. So please, secretary bird, if you can understand a small amount of English, please catch something for us. See how it just hit the ground? It obviously got a little grasshopper. We know that there are plenty of those around at the moment because it stomped the ground and actually looked around to see if it maybe flew away. But then it found its prized possession down on the ground. I wonder how long it's going to take us to catch a secretary bird killing a snake on screen. Wouldn't that be amazing? I still can't get over about it. I dream about it every single night. It is definitely on my list of things to see before I go back to South Africa. So, secretary birds, please can you do me a favor and catch something amazing in the grass other than just insects. But maybe that's going to start to change as the weather warms up. Another delicious treat. We'll get some more movement of the snakes, although it's been pretty warm, and typically just after rain we often see the snakes moving about. There's lots of rodents around at the moment, so that might entice the snakes to come out of their burrows, doing the little shuffle through the grass there. It's so fascinating to sit and watch. Now, if you ever get the chance to come on a safari where in an area where there are secretary birds, it's amazing just to sit and watch them. You can watch them for hours and hours. They're such busy birds, constantly on the go. And also, they're not too afraid of us either. You know, sometimes with the southern ground hornbills, you can't sit and watch them for long periods of time because they just run away from you. They keep out of view. Although the best place to watch southern ground hornbill seems to be in the Kruger, where they are very much used to the cars. But here they seem to be quite relaxed as well. It's refreshing. I love this. I love the fact that we're able to go around and watch all the animals out here without interfering. Now, my world, your music, you're wondering if we get snakes here in Kenya, because you haven't seen any yet. I've seen some. I've seen two now. It was either an olive house snake or a brown house snake that was lacking. It was a house snake. It was probably an olive house snake that I saw one night. And then I also saw a mamba. It was either East African mamba or it was the Jamisons. I haven't quite worked it out. I only got a very quick view of it. And since then I haven't been able to decipher which one it was, but it definitely was a mamba of sorts. It was beautiful. Craig said he saw a thread snake or something along those lines the other night. So they're definitely around and in camp, and I'm sure as the temperature starts to increase and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, we will see a few more of them. And maybe especially around camp, there's quite a few rocks. Snakes like to sunbathe. It makes for a good area, especially when you're still trying to keep warm. So those might be good spots. And then, of course, we'll see them on the roads at night. That's where I saw that house snake. It was curled up on the road. Well, actually not curled up, it was stretched out across the road, trying to get as much of the warmth from the ground as it could. It was turning into quite a chilly night. So very clever of the snake. But there goes our secretary bird out of view now, and not with a snake between its talons. Maybe next time. Maybe next time we'll get it. No, not reverse. First gear. Okay, off we go. I don't know where the Angama pride have gone. I actually haven't heard anybody saying that they found them this morning, so they probably just snuck off somewhere just out of view, maybe in these tree lines and some of these luggers, which is fine. It must be tough when you're a pride of lions like the Angamas, and I reckon they must have cars around them every single day. And we always joke and say sometimes the animals need a holiday too. I reckon that's exactly what's happened. Right, Tristan is back again, and it sounds like he's left Kuchava and moved on to another cat.
No, not yet, Taylor. We're still on Central, but we're trying to get towards a Birmingham boy who is stalking something. I have no idea what he's stalking, but apparently he's stalking something not too far from where I am now. So we're trying to just get into that area. Unfortunately, with the inclement weather, our Gari batteries have died, so that's why we lost a bit of reception. And we're only on the Vuya telemast now, so I'll have to go change those after drive quickly, but that's okay. So hopefully this male will stay where he is now, because this will mean that we'll have fairly decent reception from this area. Now, he's just crossed over the road right here and going northwards, but they say to me it's going to be better if I come from Gari Cutline side. But I wonder what he's stalking. Rex says he can't see what it is, but he's gone into stalk mode and he's trying to hunt. So we're trying to just quickly get there and see if maybe we get lucky. I'm just trying to see if I can see Rex's vehicle from anywhere. But he says to me the Jackalberry, so the Jackalberry is not far from where we are now, it's just over there. So hopefully I should be able to find Rex fairly quickly. But exciting stuff. Now, the Birmingham boy was found because we found tracks when we were going towards Kuchava, going north, and then the guys heard him calling, and that's why they were able to find him. So we're going to try and, like I say, get into this area. But I don't know how we're going to get across to the other bank. Let's see. Okay, now to try and find Rex in all of this is going to be, like I say, fairly interesting. Let's see. I think this is going to be the best way across this drainage, is to just head straight up on this side. It is a very difficult area, so if we can't find Rex fairly quickly, it's going to be quite tough. There's a Nyala. Now hopefully this lion is not hunting said Nyala. I don't think so. Rex says he... Sorry, Senzo, you're going to have to duck down a little bit. Oh, there's a little owl that's just popped out. So I don't know if you can see it, Senzo. Straight in front of me here on this tree in the background there should be a little pearl-spotted owlet. I think it's a pearl-spotted owlet. Could be a barred owlet. Difficult to say. Barred owlet. I don't see any black spots on the back of the head there, so that's a little barred owlet that's just popped out as we were coming along. So I can hear Rexon is north of me, so I need to get out and still try and get round a little bit further. So nice to see our little owl, but I'm going to go backwards and just try and get towards where Rex is. Now, he seems as though he's north of me, and apparently this line is still going north. So while I try and figure this out, I believe James has found himself a rather large tragelaphon that Taylor had a little bit earlier.
There we have some earland, everybody. And I know Taylor's shown you some, but I think they are just the most magnificent things. And I believe that you were chatting about the difference between male and female. And I think we are so inexperienced with earland these days that it's actually quite difficult to tell. And the size, obviously, a good differentiator. But also the males, of course, much heavier horned. And I don't know that there are any big bulls amongst this lot. I think that they are all cows. Even the big one there at the back is a cow. Yes, indeed, I can see her teats. Still huge and heavy horned. And if you see, for example, horns of something known as the Lord Derby's eland, which is even bigger than these ones, they really are astonishingly large, probably sort of maybe 3 feet across at the top of the, or tip of the horns. Huge things. And of course, such leonine tails. What's wrong, Fergus? Why are you clicking your teeth at yourself? Oh. James, you say earland are really magnificent. They are. I agree. And they look to be in the most superb condition at the moment. There's obviously still a lot of grass here. And you know, were that migration, that great swathe of wildebeest, were they to turn back this way and come into the triangle, which they might do, let's not forget they may do that, it would not be a waste of time for them. The rain that has brought new green flush to this landscape means that there is a massive amount of grass to eat for all creatures. Well, if you happen to like eating grass, that is. It's starting to warm up a bit now, which is quite nice. I'm not sure what the temperature was when we started. I would have said probably around about 18 degrees Celsius or so, so about 65 Fahrenheit. And I think it's probably now sitting at closer to 21 degrees Celsius or so, 75 or so Fahrenheit. Not quite 75, I think it's 72. I think by now I'd remember those conversions. You know how you do the conversion, Fergus?
I don't actually.
You multiply by 9, divide by 5, and add 32. So it's much easier to just guess. Or you say, do the eland all have stripes? Yes, they do to a certain extent. I guess they're pretty faded on some. I'm just looking. Yeah, they've all got them. They're just very faded on the older ones. There's a zebra that is fast asleep. You see that one there? Sorry, no, you're this side of the pole.
Almost perfectly behind the pole.
Yeah, no. What, that sleeping zebra? That one should be alright for you. There we go, just having a bit of a snooze as the heat starts to build and the flies start to move. And you know, this time last year when we were here earlier, it was hot. I remember sitting in the afternoons thinking, gosh, this is a really warm environment to be in. Not here, not this year. Now, this is very good news. I believe that Taylor has managed to find a lioness, I'm going to guess, of the Angama pride. Let's go and find out from her.
Well done, James. You guessed correctly. I suspect it is the lovely ladies of the Angama pride. Now, there are a couple of them. Most of them seem to be actually laying in the grass at the moment, which is making it difficult for us to give an accurate ID on these lions, but this area is pretty much where they were seen yesterday. They must have been in the tree line, though, because we've driven past this and we actually stopped and we scanned around here this morning, and there were no lions in sight. So I think that they've moved out from the tree line, and they're still glancing around. I can't see any big bellies from this angle, so I wonder if they were unsuccessful again last night. They were watching the zebra that were just on the other side of the lugger as they were running about, looking a little bit interested, but they've got a long way to go to catch those zebra. They'll have to travel quite a big distance. I don't think they're going to sit there for the whole day, though. It's going to be quite warm. The sun is pretty much pushed through all the clouds. The clouds are burning out, and that is not a very good spot. So I'm just looking around me to see where's the next shady bit in preparation if they, or this afternoon. Maybe they'll go to the left or the right or forwards or backwards, because there's just trees around them, and they're going to go back towards the other lionesses up on the other lioness. There must be a couple more around here. We'll see. Hopefully when she walks through the grass, she'll wake a few others up. But they're in there somewhere. I did see little heads, little cub heads, there we go, popping up every now and then. Because I don't think it was the Angama pride that we saw near the Olololo gate. I'm pretty sure that it was the Olololo females that we saw just very briefly, and just a few of them. No, they don't look very fat, do they? They could have had a small snack here and there. Maybe caught an impala or caught something like a topi. That wouldn't really be too much. They'd gobble that up in a couple of hours, in fact, with all those cubs and the 4 lionesses. I think they're going to find and hopefully try to find a nice shady spot. But they're far off the road, as you can see. Now, Goop, you're wondering if lions only eat meat? Yes, it's the main diet. However, occasionally you can see lions ingesting grass, just like your dogs and cats will do at home. Normally it's to try and regurgitate all the hair that they've been feeding on. That's typically it. But yes, they're just eating meat. They're not like the jackals, which can change their diet. They're omnivorous. They can feed on rodents and, any meat. They scavenge quite a bit too, but they can also feed on fruit. Unfortunately, lions do not have the ability to change their diet, though it would be quite funny to see a lion climbing a marula tree and bouncing on the edge of the branches to drop some of those fruits so that they could eat them. That could be quite a sight. But they stand out like a sore thumb. I mean, you can see how easy it is to spot a lion that is sitting elevated above the grass, because that sort of white underbelly of theirs, it doesn't blend into the vegetation. It does stand out. Now, Molly, you're wondering what is my favorite pride of lions? Well, in South Africa, I like the Southern pride, although the Nkumas have grown on me tremendously. And then up here in the Mara, I like the sausage tree pride a lot. I really enjoy them. I like that feisty young pale cub. She's hysterical. She keeps me giggling for ages, and most of you know I just like to laugh all the time. It's my favorite thing. I don't want to take anything too seriously, only when I really have to. And I'm enjoying the Angama pride too. I haven't really spent too much time with the other prides. I've seen the Egyptian goose pride. I've seen a variety of lions, seen the Silos pride. I think my favorite so far has to be the sausage tree pride. But they've kept me waiting, Molly. They keep taunting me and stalking animals and not successfully catching anything. So when is the day that I'm going to see, with the amount of time that I've spent so far with the sausage tree pride, when are they going to lead me to a successful kill? We'll just have to keep waiting and seeing. I'd just love to see how excited, or actually I don't even mind if I miss the kill. What I'd really like to see is the adults going back, the 2 lionesses going back to fetch their cubs, and see how excited they are when they get to the carcass. That's always one of my favorite things. But these girls, I think they're deciding. I think they're going to move back towards that tree line again, which is where they've come from. Now, another question about the lions, and it's from Riti, and it is, are no, not R, is buffalo. Oh my goodness, what is wrong? I think I need to go back to bed today. I'm a little bit on the tired side. Making up things in my head. Anyways, are buffalo easiest prey for lions? Now, that's not the case at all. Actually, buffalo are massive creatures, and we know how tough and big and scary they can be. And I have yet to see lions take down buffalo. We saw especially up here in Kenya, I'm talking about, we saw the Chelly boys on a buffalo kill. It looked like a buffalo bull. They can easily take it down, but they're so much bigger than the buffalo in South Africa and so much tougher. They're really healthy. I don't know if the lions are, specifically going after buffalo. So I think what may have happened there is I think that buffalo maybe died of an injury or natural causes somehow, and the lions came across it and started feasting upon it. Actually, you have got a big belly. You deceived me. So there we go. They have caught something. Sorry. The other lioness didn't look as full as this one, but they have obviously had a substantial meal. But in South Africa, Riti, the lions have learnt how to hunt buffalo. They typically go after them in the winter months, which means that the buffalo aren't as big and strong and tough as what they normally are. So it's an advantage to the lions. But speaking of course, big, strong male lions, Tristan has got one of the Birmingham boys.
No, I don't, unfortunately. We're in a situation where Rex couldn't follow any further. I've tried to get north of where he was. No sign of this Birmingham boy coming out the side, and the reason why is because of that big animal right there. So I think this Birmingham is why he was he wasn't stalking, he was trying to avoid this herd of elephants, and so his direction from here could be either way. Unfortunately for him, if he's seen a big herd like this, he's not going to risk trying to walk through the middle of them. He'll go around them. So he might have either gone down back towards Gari Cutline, or he's going to have cut further to the east towards Hyena Road. So I think unfortunately for us, we've run out of time to find him. We'll have to try and see if we can get him this afternoon. These Ellies put a slight little dampener on our search for him because it made it a little bit difficult to get to that area. But anyway, it's still been a wonderful morning with Ellies and lions in the Mara and Kuchava here with her kill. It's been really fantastic, and the fact that we had rain last night was also quite special as well. So I'm pretty sure from James and Taylor all the way on that side of the world, it's a very big thank you for all of you joining us this morning. And well, from Senzo, who's wrapped up like the Michelin man, and myself, Lou and Megan and FC, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.